join me in the holding area as the cars are getting ready to go out onto the grid for race 2 here at Rockingham. And as we've seen, high-speed bank circuit, twisty infield, it really suits these F1000 cars down to the ground. Now, race 2, reverse grid in the top 8. That means Rob Cyril, yesterday's winner, starts in 8th place, Butcher in 7th. They are going to be carving their way through the field. It's not going to be easy for them. It's over to our commentary team to take you through this action-packed race.
Yep, thanks Lloyd. Cars lining up ahead of this always entertaining reverse grid race. It's Rob Bailey who benefits and gets the pole position ahead of Adam Walker. He is one to watch. Then it's Rob Wellham and Dax Ward. Then our top 4 from race 1. Clues, Watton, Butcher and Sayel on the 3rd and 4th rows respectively. Peter Legge and Alwyn Rhodes-Mays will continue their scrap from the 5th row ahead of Andrew Wheels, Alok Iyengar and Mark Fortune are 2 retirements from race 1. So the white car of Rob Bailey on the pole position, bit of creeping there from Rob Wellham though in 3rd place. If that's not a jump start, I don't know what is, but as is always the case, when you start creeping, you then don't get going anywhere because it's so easy to stall the car. That opens up the gap beautifully for Dan Clues, who comes charging through from 5th on the grid to be 2nd before they hit turn 1. He's already challenging for the race lead. Bailey holds it. Clues is up the inside line there. There's a gap there for the green car to go through. No! Door slammed in his face, so Bailey hangs on. Clues 2nd, Butcher 3rd, Watton 4th. On board with Adam Walker around the outside line. So Dax Ward that was around the outside to the hairpin. Oh, Clues runs wide from 2nd place. And Paul Butcher back up the inside. Tries to take the position away. I'm sure he'll have made that one stick through the next right-hander. Yes, he has. I can see that off in the distance. So it's all changed already. Back on board with Peter Legge running in the midfield here in the early stages as he heads down towards the pit path, but a typically fraught first few corners. We heard the driver saying after race 1 that the start to race 2 was going to be all important because once you settle down into a rhythm, it's quite hard to work your way through. But on the first lap, you need to make the most of that nice wide circuit out on the oval at turn 1. Robert Bailey, though, is still leading the way. Rob Bailey fending off the Paul Butcher car in 2nd place, but he runs wide. We're on board with Dan Clues in 3rd, who's got a grandstand view of this lead battle going on in front of him. Dan, in turn, is defending from his big championship rival, Michael Watton, who's alongside. Michael Watton to the outside line, down towards the Brook chicane. Dan Clues really could do with hanging on to this one, but Watton goes through. Michael Watton takes 3rd place away, and that was crucial because the gap between the two of them, remember, has gone out as a result of Watton beating Clues in the first race. It's now out to 9 points between the two of them, as at the front of the field, Paul Butcher finally, after 1 lap, gets through ahead of Robert Bailey. But Paul Butcher started 7th on the grid. He's already in the lead, and in fairness, Robert Bailey is now coming back at him, but he's outbraked himself down to the hairpin. Oh, Michael Watton thought about going up the inside line, but Bailey was always going to slam the door in his face. This is remarkable stuff. Robert Sayel there in 5th place. Don't forget about him, the race 1 winner, trying to work his way back through the order. He's not made quite as snappy work of his fight back than as some of his contenders have done. He was one saying that it would be really important to get to the front first. On board with Adam Walker here, he's running just behind that lead group and starting to close in with all of their battling going on. Watton back up the inside, takes 2nd place away from Robert Bailey. That was a nice move down at Kirby. We said in race 1 that's not really a place where you tend to see many overtakes, but that was nicely done by Watton. And now he's got a car. In fact, he's now got 2 cars between himself and Dan Clues because, well, Robert Sayel goes up the inside. I was about to ask what the handout of the cockpit was for there for Dan Clues because that looked like a fairly legitimate overtake to me. But there was a car in the gravel trap. Mark Fortune, we're hearing, has gone off at Gracelands on the opening lap. He's embedded in the gravel trap. The safety car is coming out. Well, Hans coming out of the cockpit again, but that's caught a few drivers on the hop. But I wonder whether Dan Clues was frustrated there because he feels the overtake happened under yellows. There is the stricken car. You can see the yellow flags in the background, along with now, of course, the safety car boards. And maybe Dan Clues feels that that move should not have been made. So the order is Butcher leading the way, Watton 2nd, Bailey 3rd, Sayel is 4th, but that could be a slightly dubious 4th. Dan Clues is in 5th place and possibly being waved back through, is he? They're having a real conversation with each other, these two, which is easier said than done where you're travelling around at still speeds in excess of the national speed limit behind the safety car. But no, Sayel is not handing that 4th place back over without a fight, is he? Now, of course, there's no overtaking allowed behind the safety car, so Dan Clues can't actually take the position back now, but he can maybe try and discuss via hand gestures with Robert Sayel that once the safety car comes in, he feels he ought to be given that place back. Hopefully this shouldn't take too long, though. That car does look fairly well embedded in the Gracelands gravel trap. The marshals and recovery crew on the scene already then. Paul Butcher, well, Paul looking for that first win of the season, of course. to take that first win of the season, though. He's going to have to fend off the championship leader, Michael Watton. But Michael saying after race 1 that he does not feel the car has quite had the pace this weekend that he's had at previous meetings this year. So that will be music to Paul Butcher's ears, I'm sure, as he hopes that he can maybe try and do something about this and take the race victory. There's Peter Legge in the number 9 car, who works his way through Kirby, former British saloon car racer, of course, back in the late 60s, at the times that likes of Jackie Stewart and Graham Hill would have been taking part in the championship, back in the good old days, as some would say. Held the lap record at Brands Hatch for a while, actually, during the 60s. When it was at about 54 seconds, and I think in all of those years they've not managed to take a huge amount of time off that, have they? But he's raced this car in several championships, and one of the good things about F1000 cars is that there are other single-seater championships that they're eligible to race in, but of course we encourage them all to come out and enjoy the fun with the F1000 Championship, because there are lots of these cars out there. It's just a case of encouraging them onto the grid, because the racing is fantastic, and the more cars we have out there, of course, the better the racing will be. There is Mark Fortune's car, looking a bit worse for wear, but no real damage done, I don't think. Just dirty tyres and a bit of gravel in the radiator, which they'll be able to clear out. He should be out for race number 3 later on today. You can see at the back of the grid there is Rob Wellham, the 16-year-old, who maybe showed his inexperience a little bit at the start, where he was definitely creeping, but I think the fact that he didn't gain any sort of an advantage, in fact he lost a lot of time as a result of that, because he then stalled the car. I doubt he'll be given a penalty of any sort. Be a little harsh if he was, but of course this safety car means he's been able to close right back in on the tail end of the pack anyway. The pack which works its way underneath the starting gantry now, onto another lap behind the pace car. Their tyres trying to get some warmth into them. There's Alec Iyengar in the blue number 14 car. He tends to go quite well around here at Rockingham. The man who's just in front of Peter Legge. And Alec Iyengar, this, he says, is his favourite circuit. He has previous form of doing rather well here. Those of you who have followed the championship for a few seasons will know. And Alec not really quite had the ultimate pace here so far this weekend. But of course that non-finish in race 1 meant that we didn't really get to see the best of him. You'll be sincerely hoping that the car keeps together this time around. He can maybe start working his way through the order. He's just in front of Peter Legge, and then behind I think is Andrew Wheels, who's got a rather snazzy new livery on the car for this weekend. Safety car should be in this lap, hopefully. I would imagine with the recovery process now complete. Paul Butcher with Michael Watton not far behind. You can see Butcher already starting to drop back now. And Michael Watton staying right on his tail as he tries to anticipate the restart. There's Rob Wellham towards the tail end of the field in car number 5, but he'll be one to watch for. He had decent pace in the first race, of course, finished 6th on his debut. The lights are indeed now out on the safety car, so it's now down to Paul Butcher. When does he accelerate? He can't do it too early because you're not allowed to overtake the safety car before it's entered the pit lane. So he's got to time this right, but this is something that Paul will have done before. He's backing the field right up, and I reckon he might choose to accelerate just as they come through the Dean hairpin, because that would catch them on the hop a little bit. Let's see as they work their way through the tight right-hander. No, Butcher's, well, yes, I think he has now stepped on the loud pedal, but he's going to catch the safety car if he's not too careful. Yes, he's gone too early. Look at that. The safety car is rather leisurely making its way through the chicane, and Paul has to slow back down again. Michael almost into the back of him. Now they can step on it again. The safety car peels off into the pit lane, but that could have been a slightly tidier restart for Paul Butcher, and that means that he's not really gained any sort of an advantage over Michael Watton in 2nd. They've pulled away, though, from Rob Bailey in 3rd, who already has Dan Clues up the inside and moving back onto the podium is Dan. That's exactly what he needs to do. Into 3rd position, Robert Sayell tried to take advantage of the lost momentum from Bailey as well. Sweeps from the outside line down to the inside, under braking in towards the Dean hairpin. And will Rob go through? Yes, he does. So we've now got the same top 4 drivers that we had in race 1, occupying the top 4 positions in race 2 again. But they're in a slightly different order, with Paul Butcher leading the round at the moment. There is Adam Walker, 14 on his car, and he started 30th in race 1. Worked his way nicely through the order in that one to eventually finish 7th, and started this one from second. He's just struggled a little bit at the start, but that's to be expected with some of the really quick guys coming through from behind. But now he's keen to try and get past Rob Bailey and make himself one of that quick quartet, or what would be a quintet if we could go with him at the front of the field. Looks to the inside into Graceland. You can't really overtake from that far back through there, though. But Rob Bailey runs out wide, and that will open the door for Adam Walker. That loss of momentum really cost Rob Bailey, and he loses 5th place as well now. Lead us through Tarzan, back up the school straight then once again towards the end of another lap in this slightly truncated race, of course, now because of the safety car. We don't add any laps or time on as a result of safety cars with the Speed Group F1000 Championship, so you've got what you've got. A 15-minute race, you get as many laps in as you can, and if you spend half of that behind the safety car, then that's unfortunate, but they don't add any of those laps back on. So they've got roughly 5 minutes left in this race now, in which to make their final moves to the front. This is the fight for 3rd place. Robert Sayell, race 1 winner, chasing down Dan Clues, still looking for that first win of the season. He's had a 2nd place finish, and he's had a further 5 3rd place finishes, has Dan. But as they turn their way out of the Dean Hairpin, he's starting to come under pressure here from Rob Sayell, who looks to the inside into Yentwood, stands on the brakes, just can't quite find a way through. Back up the hill into Chapman Curve, and then in towards the extended section of circuit. This is the fight for the race lead. That's equally as close. Look, Michael Watton latched onto the gearbox of Paul Butcher in front of him. Paul, who has been regaining form in the last few rounds, it must be said, had those mechanical issues, but then had 2 second places at Cadwell Park last time out. Another 2nd place to add to the collection yesterday in race 1. That was his 4th 2nd place and his 5th podium result of the season. But as we've documented, still winless in 2018 is Paul Butcher. There's Adam Walker 5th, Rob Bailey 6th, with Dax Ward starting to close in 7th, and then Iyengar, who's struggling a lot more than we expected he would do here. Rob Wellham there has found a way past Peter Legge, and then Andrew Wheels running towards the tail end of the field. But Andrew, who's coached by former champion Lee Morgan, he's getting quicker as the season goes on. Here's Peter Legge then down into the chicane, which he makes a bit of a haulix of, outbraked himself, ran in deep. That's really cost him speed through the corner, but thankfully Andrew Wheels is not all that close to him, so he shouldn't lose another position. Peter, I don't think he's best pleased with himself for that one. Taking one hand off the wheel, gives it a bit of a rest as he goes down the pit straight and through the flat out turn 1. You've got to hang on for dear life through there, down below the white line as well. That's brave. That's the flatter part of the circuit, so you don't have the banking to assist you through there. These high downforce cars, that's not a problem. They can flat out through that corner all day long. Back through Dean Hairpin he goes. In blissful isolation at the moment is Peter Legge. Very good looking car though, nicely turned out livery, as is the case for most of the cars on the grid, it must be said. Peter, who is mechanicked by his son. His son Doug is a decent racer himself actually, but mechanics the car. It's really just him and his father though, him and Peter, who work on the car from weekend to weekend and indeed at the circuit. Peter actually has a pilot's licence, but says he doesn't really have enough time to do that because he's always working on his car, but he is a man of many talents, is Peter, and a real character as well to chat to in the paddock. Right, this is getting interesting now for the race lead because Michael Watton could not be any closer to Paul Butcher's car as it goes through turn number 1, and Michael Watton pulls to the right-hand side of the road, pulls to the left-hand side of the road. He's on the inside, he's surely going to take the race lead away here. They almost bang wheels down into the hairpin at Dean. This is getting very tight indeed, and no, Paul Butcher hangs on, runs a bit deep, but that was really forceful defensive driving from Paul Butcher. That, if we ever had any doubts as to how much Paul Butcher wants to win a race here this season, that will have dispelled those doubts well and truly. Fantastic driving though, well, aggressive driving anyway from Paul Butcher. I'm sure Michael Watton didn't appreciate it too much, but Paul has held on to the race lead. In fairness, there was no contact, neither car was forced off the road, it was just firm, hard racing. Down through Kirby they go again. They pull a bit of a gap on the rest of the cars behind. Whoops, that's a spin for Andrew Wheels, who had caught Peter Legge over the last few laps, and as you can see there, was just starting to try and build up a bit of an attack, and around he goes down at Yentwood. Alwyn Rhodes Mays goes through as a result. As I was about to say, the leading two had built up a bit of a gap over the 3rd place car of Robert Sayell, but that little bit of side-by-side action they just had up at the Dean hairpin last time around has meant that that gap started to come down. So as they come through the Brook chicane this time around, it's almost 3 cars for the race lead now. This race building to a real crescendo. And, well, can Michael Watton hang on to second place? Is he going to find himself the meat in the sandwich as we go on to the final lap of the race? He's close again, though, to Paul Butcher. Now, we know that Paul will defend the inside line this time, I'm sure, as he comes out of turn number 1. So Watton might be forced to go to the outside, but he's going to have a go at this, surely, in the slipstream down towards Dean. Well, Butcher sort of defends at the last minute, so Watton goes around the outside. He's really late on the brakes. Oh, he's too late on the brakes. Michael Watton off onto the grass. He could lose second place. He will lose second place. Robert Sayell goes through, and that was not in the script for the championship leader. Michael Watton was on course there for a fairly simple second place. He wanted the win, though. He went for the move, and it's all gone wrong. He's dropped off onto the bottom step of the podium now, and that means he won't be taking quite as many points out of Dan Clues as he would have been. So that promotes Robert Sayell into second place. Now, can Robert pull off the reverse grid victory? That is really difficult to do. Only Michael Watton has managed to do it so far this season. And, well, that would be quite the achievement if he could make this one work. He's right on the tail of Paul Butcher. He carries much more speed through Gracelands. He'll be close enough to attack down towards Tarzan. Butcher doesn't really defend the inside line. Robert Sayell has a look but can't quite get there. One more opportunity, though, and that's down into the Brook chicane. They're both a bit scrappy coming out of the Tarzan hairpin. They're dropping Michael Watton in third slightly, though, so it's down to these two, Butcher and Sayell. Butcher looking for his first win of the season, Sayell looking for his second of the weekend. But I think that Paul Butcher finally is going to do it. He's got just enough to hang on as they come out of the chicane, and for the first time this year, Paul Butcher wins in the Speed Group F1000 Championship. A fantastic race. The eventual margin of victory just 0.2 of a second over an opportunistic Robert Sayell, who moves up into second place on the final lap. Michael Watton, well, he's still on the podium. He still beats his championship rival Dan Clues, but that could have been an awful lot better. He handed away essentially 3 championship points there by losing second place. Confirmation of the result then. Butcher, Sayell and Watton, your podium finishes, with Clues again unlucky in 4th. Adam Walker, his weekend ever improving in 5th then. Then it's Robert Bailey, Dax Ward, Alec Iyengar, Peter Laig and Alwyn Rhodes-Mays rounds out the top 10. Andrew Wheels 11th after his spin. We lost Mark Fortune in the gravel. We also lost Rob Wellham, unfortunately, with mechanical dramas towards the end.
Paul, fantastic prediction yesterday. You said you could try and do one better, and here you've done it. You top step on the podium. Well done.
Yeah, it was a very tough race. Working my way through on the reverse grid is never straightforward, and then keeping Mike and Rob behind I had some pretty wide elbows at various points on that, but really pleased to have got a first place, really pleased.
Well, congratulations. We look forward to seeing you out there in race 3.
Thank you very much.
Rob, congratulations on second place. That was a daring move, though.
Awesome. Yeah, I said yesterday the key was to start. I did get away quite clean, but I did see that Paul slipped through quite quick, and I was like, oh no. Then we come under a safety car, so I was praying that third place man Rob Bailey was going to keep up with the other two, because he's fairly new, and I didn't know if that was going to be his downside. But in fairness, he was good. So yeah, then it was all about making a few moves up. I passed Dan Close around the outside at the top in the straight. I was pretty impressed with that after getting in his slip. So yeah, and then up to second. I think probably one more lap I may have had Paul, because my car was coming on, and I think theirs were getting worse. So yeah, my setup was obviously pretty good.
And hopefully it's going to be the right setup for the final race.
Well, I believe we're on pole for the final because we've got the quickest lap in that race. So hopefully it's a repeat of race 1, but we'll see.
We'll look forward to seeing that. Cheers, Rob.
Thank you.
Michael, another third place. Tough coming through the traffic, as damage to your car sort of pays testament to.
Yeah, it was, actually we made a setup change from yesterday and the car was a lot better, I thought, that race. I thought relative to our competition we were a lot stronger. I caught the back of Rob coming up into Piff Path. I'm not sure if he missed a gear, just caught me out a little bit. So actually, apart from the fast left at Gracelands, the car was pretty good for most of the circuit. So yeah, I felt I had the pace to beat Paul. He just about did enough to hold me off, and then I had a big go on the last lap. Rob took advantage, as he would. And we're third again, but we're still in front of Dan, our closest challenger, so I feel positive that we can maybe win the last race of the weekend. I think we've made a definite improvement today.
And all good points for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. We've beaten our closest challenger both races, so probably, although it's not been our best weekend, we're still extending our championship lead. So I think you just got to make the best of when you're not as competitive as you'd like to be, and capitalise when you're strong.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you after race 3.
Yeah, thank you very much.